Hey, I'm Mr. Webb. I'm one of the AP Lit teachers. And Mrs. Engelkiss and I, we're going to kind of tag team sometimes. Since some of the things we'll be doing are recorded, it seems silly for us both to record things, so we'll kind of take turns on some of these. And this first one, I just want to kind of walk you through the AP rubric a little bit and help to clarify some of these categories. It's still going to be a very basic understanding by the time you finish this, but hopefully I can shed a little bit of light so you better understand how you're going to be scored. So the first category up here is thesis. And this one's kind of an easy. It's either you get it or you don't. You either have a defensible interpretation of that text, you have like a viable thesis, or you don't have one. I think this, once we kind of clarify a little bit, we'll spend some time on thesis, but this should be one of the easier points that you get. Does it answer the prompt, right? Does it take a position? If it does, you have a thesis. It may not be a great thesis, but if you have one, at this point, you can still get that point. Now, the next category, evidence and commentary, is a little bit trickier because now some of those points are really kind of dependent on the way that you established your argument through your thesis. So if you'll notice here, the 1, the 2, the 0, it just says provide some specific relevant evidence, right? General evidence. So you're talking about the book. It kind of relates to what you said in your thesis, but that's it. If you look at the 3 and 4, though, for the evidence side, it says provide specific evidence to support all claims in a line of reasoning. So that line of reasoning is what is added in at the 3 and the 4 level that differentiates itself from the 0, the 1, and the 2. So the line of reasoning is, here's my train of thought. Here's what I think, and here's kind of the organization that's going to get me there. Given this set of assumptions, these would also come into play, right? So think about, if you know to think about logical arguments like an enthymeme, that would kind of be a line of reasoning that you would follow through. So once you've established what that is, hopefully through your thesis or even through topic sentences within those paragraphs, you need to then provide specific textual references. If it's, now some of them are kind of general essays where you won't be able to have a direct quote, you won't have the book in front of you, but there you can still be specific about a precise moment. You know, here's a key moment. There was an interaction between these characters at this moment and this came out of it, right? On others, you'll have the poem or you'll have an excerpt of prose in front of you. And for those, you can quote. In fact, you should quote, pull out key quotes and use that as evidence. Walk us through a close textual reading of an important moment to demonstrate how your idea comes to life, all right? So that's the evidence side. There's also a commentary side. So it's not enough to just provide this evidence and drop it in there. That's what you're going to get over here, like summarizes the evidence but does not explain how it supports the argument. It explains how some of it relates, but not all of it, right? So those 1s, those 2s, yeah, you found stuff, but then you're kind of putting all the responsibility, all the burden, all the weight on the reader to then make those connections themselves. You want to remove that. You want to be as explicit as possible. So in a 3 or a 4 now, you're not only providing evidence, but you're making explicit how that evidence supports that line of reasoning, how it supports those claims that you're making. And that's really the key distinction here. It seems like it would be easy. Like when we look at it at the rubric, you're like, okay, well, so I'll provide my evidence, then I'll just explain how it works. It's a lot harder to do, especially in a time situation. All of this is infinitely more complex when you have that pressure of time over you. Okay, so evidence and commentary. This one has the broadest range. There's a lot in there. It's obviously somewhat up to the interpretation of your scorer, but that's why you want to remove the guessing from it. Be explicit, be clear, use good, strong topic sentences, have a good, strong thesis, make sure they all connect together. The last part here is sophistication. And this is one, it's it's kind of a catch-all. Um, it's kind of like the slush fund for AP rubrics. It's a little bit more nebulous. So notice here, it says demonstrates sophistication of thought and or develops a complex literary argument. So they're saying, yeah, if you have really sophisticated ideas and a great argument, that will qualify. But what does that really mean? Um, you can also do it these ways, identify and exploring complexities or tensions. So all the things that we typically try to avoid, the things that are really complex, that are really ambiguous, the things we're not sure we understand, they're saying they'll reward you potentially with this point if you'll dig into those things that are scary and that maybe we're not even supposed to know. Illuminating the student's interpretation by situating it within a broader context. So we'll talk about different forms of literary analysis, but some are based in history, right? Some are based within particular movements or ways of thinking. So if you situate it within the history or within a broader context or part of a bigger movement, that could potentially earn you that sophistication point. Account for alternative interpretations of the text. It's very popular in our world right now to just be like, here's the only way to think about this issue, and anyone that disagrees with me is an awful person that I'll never talk to again. In literature and in academia, we really try to encourage more nuanced approaches. So yeah, here is a valid interpretation, but this could also be interpreted this way or this way or this way. However, given this evidence, I'm going to go with this one. So acknowledging the range of possible interpretations really shows that you've taken a reasoned, careful approach to that, and that could earn you that point as well. And finally, employing a style that is consistently vivid and persuasive. So if you're just an amazing writer, sometimes that will end up earning you this point. It's hard. It says it should only be awarded if sophistication of thought or complex understanding is part of the student's argument, not merely a phrase or reference. So it has to consistently appear throughout the entire essay. And that's why this point is rarely awarded. It's frustrating because it's like, what did I do wrong? Why didn't I get this point? Well, you didn't do anything wrong. It just wasn't at that level of sophistication that would, earn that last point. And that's a hard thing for us. We really like to know what I did wrong. And in this one, you could have done everything right and still not earned that point. And that's just a tough one to explain. I like to think about it like with music. If you've ever seen say a piano recital or something, right? And you might have three people playing the same piece. And let's say two of them perform it without any errors. They didn't miss any notes. The rhythms were fine. But almost always there's one that's going to be clearly better. It was more expressive. It somehow moved. There was more nuance to the way they moved through the phrasing, better dynamics, right? There's just all these little subtle things that when you step back and look at it, you're like, yeah, they were fine. They didn't do anything wrong. But this one, that one was art, right? And that's kind of what they're talking about here with the scoring too. It's kind of that aha. So take it all together here. Notice that the rubric now is only worth 6 points. It used to be a 9-point rubric. Now it's only 6 points. We will explain and have on our rubrics that we share out how this translates into a point value. But more to come on that, but right now the most important part is just that you understand what the scores mean on the rubric. Okay? You'll probably have questions throughout the year, but this is just an introduction, helping you to know maybe what you don't understand or helping you to understand the types of questions you need to ask so that you can get the understanding that you need. But thanks for watching, and hopefully that helped a little bit.